Hey everyone, how's it going? This is Persia from Team Broken's here, and welcome to the third installment of Marvel Minds. As you guys may already know, East Coast Throwdown had some amazing matches this past weekend, which is why I'm actually going to be analyzing two matches from the event. The first match I'll be analyzing is Flux vs Scamby on winner's side of top 8. I loved this match for a few reasons. First off, Scamby was playing out of his mind this tournament and showed us some great wesker play and some very interesting Chris tactics. Also, this match came down to the very last game and was so close that you would almost forget there were such things as top tiers. Throughout the match, you'll notice Flux struggle a little bit with Zero against Wesker, but his thoughts on the matchup might surprise you. He said, it's pretty firm in Zero's advantage, but not totally hopeless for Wesker if he can frustrate Zero and put himself in awkward angles for Zero to protect. Zero doesn't strictly need to get in to win the matchup, but when played well, Wesker can make you feel like you have to close the distance. Keeping 3/4 to full screen range with super jump gunshot or normal jump depending on the spacing is good. Catch Zero moving forward, hopefully hit him, take his buster away, and you can safely call assists. If Zero gets in, he pretty much wrecks Wesker though. The player needs to have exceptional fundamentals and footsies to fight off Zero. With that said, we can get straight into the first match where you can see just how Scamby uses Wesker against Zero with Flux's input in mind. Game 1 starts off with an interesting attempt from Scamby that doesn't quite work out until the second time Flux calls Virgil from a distance. Both players are keeping their own distance until Flux finally gives in and tries to advance using Virgil assist. Chris assist stops Virgil in his tracks and Scamby is able to confirm into a raw launch from Wesker. He does a quick combo into a super so he can get his glasses off, and luckily for him, he also catches Zero on a bad air dash to get both of Flux's characters to take some serious damage. At this point, Flux should be taking it easy on calling his assists. Once things go back to a neutral state, Flux spins a meter to power up Zero, and it's always a useful way to get a guaranteed level 3 buster since you can charge it during the animation. Flux tries to maintain pressure, but he's severely underestimating Chris assist. Virgil assist is a projectile, and since Chris grenades can be activated by all projectiles and explodes, Virgil will never be able to get through. Wesker then goes for a raw launch and catches both of Flux's characters again. Virgil died on impact and Zero is taken out as well. So in real time, it looks like a random situation, but it was actually the right thing for Scamby to do. All that's left is Dante now, and although not impossible, it's literally the definition of a struggle. Scamby just annoys Dante with normal jump gunshots and tries to be tricky with some counters until he eventually lands an unexpected throw into an X-Factor combo to take the first match. On to Game 2, Flux tries to close the gap early. Scamby makes a huge mistake by not teleporting after the super jump gunshot. If you do not teleport, you're vulnerable until you reach the ground. This leaves a wide open punish for Flux, and he definitely takes advantage by getting rid of the problem. Now what looks like it could be a drop combo is actually a reset, as you can see by the delayed buster, so that he could cross up. And just like that, Wesker is down. Flux is a Zero specialist, so he knows tons of tricks, and especially for incoming mix-ups. He does the lightning a little bit early, causing it to cross up. Although it's hard to see with the naked eye, you will notice that Zero's on the other side of Nemesis as he makes contact with lightning. Solid hit, but Flux couldn't finish the combo and we're back to a neutral state. Zero doesn't mind fighting from full screen against Nemesis because there's not much he can do from this distance that he wouldn't be able to react to. They continue to fight until Scamby DHCs into Chris. Now we get to see the Chris grenade action. As I said before, the grenades can be activated by any projectile from either player. It also looks like once a projectile activates the grenade, the projectile is nullified. Interesting tool, but it doesn't pay off too much for Scamby as Flux just has too many projectiles for Chris to keep up. Flux uses the Shadow Super to flood Scamby with projectiles until he can push Chris to the corner and catch him with a jam session. He has plenty of meter to take Chris out, leaving Nemesis to block yet another incoming mix-up. This time around, Flux goes for another tricky lightning incoming and Zero gets the cross up again. Jam session solidifies the confirm and Flux takes Game 2. Game 3 starts off and Chris still proves to be a nuisance for Flux's assists, and Wesker gets a super jump on accident when trying a command throw. Once at super jump height, he sees jam session and supers. This was actually a great chance to get the glasses off since he was too high up for Flux to get it confirmed. Just when Flux thinks he's getting an advantage, Scamby X-Factors after the last hit of Zero's air H and uses a command throw to punish. Knowing that Zero is Flux's best character, Scamby has been doing a great job of taking him out by taking advantage of any opportunity to land a hit. Zero goes down and Scamby lands a cross under and hits Virgil quickly with help from the remaining bit of X Factor. He then shows us a little bit of that Team Resident Evil synergy by getting some nice damage even after the Team Super to finish off Virgil. Scamby uses a meaty hit into a downward teleport to try to set up Dante for a string or command throw, but Flux burns the X Factor to avoid eating the mix-up. Wesker tries to chicken block the hammer but leaves himself open to a slick cross-up standing medium from Dante when he push blocks. He gets a little bit of momentum by taking out Wesker, but all of that momentum comes to a screeching halt when Nemesis comes into the match. After just blocking and waiting on Dante to make a mistake, he lands a throw punish on Vortex. Unfortunately, Scamby doesn't finish the combo, but he then makes the sickest read on Dante by hitting him with an air command throw. With Dante's buttons being so slow, utilizing his square jumps make it easier for him to apply pressure. Scamby must have had that in mind the entire time, and thanks to that, he takes Game 3. Taking a page out of Unknown's book, Scamby goes straight for a Wesker super at the start to get the glasses off. Although Wesker gets hit by Buster, it was still worth the risk since Flux couldn't get a combo. He continues to struggle to find a good confirm, and Scamby shows some great defense as he's forced to block Zero's string of attacks. He's also being very patient, which is good against Zero since he can capitalize on opponents who try to force a hit on him. Wesker's command throw is a no-go as Flux responds with a jump, and Flux pushes Wesker to the corner. You'll notice a few great choices made by Scamby. Number 1, he doesn't push block. Number 2, he remains mobile, and thanks to how low Wesker can get while dashing, he manages to escape block stun and land a throw on Zero. He didn't get paralyzed by the fact that Zero was in his face, and it pays off as he spins X Factor again to take Zero out. Scamby tries to read a Helmbreaker from Virgil by throwing out a counter, but Flux doesn't take the bait. Virgil blocks the grenade fire, and Scamby times the command throw a little too early. But when I say early, I literally think he was only a few frames too early because Wesker's 1-frame command throw should have grabbed Virgil's 12-frame crouching heavy if Virgil was not in block stun from the fire. Wesker is down, and level 2 Virgil is a scary character with backup. The last hit of Jam Session pushes Nemesis into perfect range for Virgil's crouching light, and Scamby gets opened up. With X Factor, it doesn't matter how much health you have, the kill is practically guaranteed. Now with Chris on the incoming, Flux sets up a perfect cross-up using the round trip. He wave dashes backwards to pull the round trip towards him and away from Chris after he releases it. If round trip is blocked, it's automatically going back to Virgil. He teleports at the last second to keep the round trip following behind to sandwich Chris. Flux gets some good damage on Chris by landing some of the classic Virgil loops before dropping the combo on the second rep. Scamby waits for the right time, and here's where he gets a great whiff punish. Virgil presses light to start a charge for round trip, but Chris has another plan as he gets a full screen confirm into a level 3 to make this a one-on-one game. Game 5 begins, and neither player wants to overcommit. They know a lot is riding on this match, so they are playing patiently. Scamby is able to throw punish a bad lightning from Zero, and even in the final game, he shows that his plan to kill Zero is still key. Although Scamby gets close by spending 3 meters, he isn't able to get the kill on Zero without spending some resources, so he uses X Factor on the last few hits to get the job done. You would think this would be great for Scamby to have X Factor on Virgil's incoming, but he gets a little bit too ahead of himself by going for a risky heavy teleport, which leaves him in perfect position to get hit by Helmbreaker. Flux knows that he needs to capitalize on this mistake and quickly takes out Wesker using X Factor and double trigger. Another cross-up round trip gets Nemesis on the incoming, but he manages to live with a magic pixel, and Scamby hard tags into Chris to keep him alive. All is well for Virgil in the meantime since he has swords activated, but even in Game 5 you can see that Flux is still having issues against Chris and his tools. Sometimes the hardest and most important thing about competing in fighting games is having character knowledge. He even misses the opportunity for a stinger punish after push blocking Scamby's string. Regardless, he's able to find the right window to keep Chris contained and set up Scamby for a frame trap. He does stinger into double trigger, and since Scamby is push blocking the stinger, he left himself extremely negative. Double trigger helps Flux recover long before Scamby is out of block stun from push blocking and opens up Chris. Flux then goes for a difficult Dante TAC infinite and drops it, giving Chris a second chance at life. But Flux manages to keep it together by using Jam Session, Crystal, and Standing Medium to finally take out Chris. With Nemesis on incoming yet again, Flux perfectly times the Acid Rain and the cross of Standing Medium to hit Nemesis at the same time to avoid being push-blocked away if Acid Rain hit first. He does the correct side switch combo to win the match. Such amazing play from both sides yet again, but you gotta hand it to Scamby for putting in so much work with a team you never get to see in the top 8. Had a chance to hear about Scamby's thoughts on his team and using it in high-level play, and he said, "I chose Team RE because I'm a fan of the series and a heavy Chris Redfield fan, even though RE3 was my favorite game. Even though this game is unfair for what select characters have, I love Marvel and I've accepted everything as what it's come to be and just learned to get around these mechanics. I feel that if you enjoy the game and play the characters you love, then nothing is impossible no matter how difficult it looks." Think about those words of wisdom from Scamby the next time you're sitting at the character select screen. And that concludes this analysis, but keep an eye out for the second match from ECT that I will be analyzing next week. And of course, if you want to watch the full video, head on over to Arturo's YouTube channel. Top 8 was even commentated by Yipes, so that's another reason to check it out. Peace, guys!